Morning, everybody. Welcome to the FBC podcast. Today I'm going to host, and I'm joined by David, which is not much of a surprise, and I'm joined by Anne also. Wow, what to say from yesterday? What a roller coaster that was. You, we hear the cliche in football, a game of two halves. That was a game of two games. It left me emotionally exhausted by the end of it. That they're putting you through it. They're putting us through it. I feel like I don't know what team is going to turn up in any half, and you see the second half, and you just feel like, why can't you do that every half? But to me, that half is the non-negotiable. That is the standard. But anyway, that's just my thoughts. Let's get down to business. And full time, how are you feeling?
Exhausted, exhilarated, lots of things beginning with X or EX and ending in D. It was a roller coaster, I suppose, to give the cliche, but that is if a roller coaster has only one downward piece and only one upward piece, because you'd be hard pressed to find two different halves of football. I think the largest piece, rather than the biggest bit, I would say, coming out of there is an immense amount of credit to the manager at half-time for realising what was wrong, albeit you could argue it was slightly obvious because Scott Twine was having a nightmare. Zach Viner shouldn't have been beaten as Understamp was carrying a knee injury, but had the courage to change it. And one of my criticisms probably of Struber in the past is that when he's changed it, it's been a bit of a Dean Holden, let's throw as many strikers on the pitch as possible and see what happens. He didn't. He went balanced. And he changed it in a very proactive way. Helps when you get the goal in the first minute and a half, because I think that set Leicester completely on the back foot. But it was a half where, over the balance of play across the two games, as you put it, we deserved to win that 90 minutes of football, I think. And I don't think any of us would have been saying that after 45.
No. David, how did you feel at full time yesterday? Are you more positive or more worried, based on the sheer spectrum changes that we're seeing?
Well, that's right, the spectrum. I mean, you said, Dave, that the second half set the standard. That's non-negotiable, and the first half was so bad that I was in despair. I phoned home at half-time, and had I not been with somebody, I was seriously contemplating, if it hadn't improved in the second half, clearing off really early. It was that bad, but. If we played half as well as we did in that second half in all the remaining games between now and the end of the season, because that second half, you say it's non-negotiable. They can't keep up that intensity for 90 minutes for the next 26 games, right?
Why not?
But because I just think it demands a level of commitment and physicality that isn't there. Now, if somebody said on OTIP, we talk about Reece, whatever Struber said at half-time, it did the trick. Because people were saying in weeks gone by, well, Reece has been carrying an injury and what have you, but he looked like a man possessed. I think it was because Chowdhury did a nutmeg on him over in front of the lower Lansdowne at one point, and he was disgusted with himself about that because he lunged in and was made to look a complete twat. But if he plays like that every week, and I'm not saying you have him and Armstrong, but they're a handful. Yeah. And I'm not Twine's biggest fan, but Ant's already said it. He had an absolute nightmare. He got booked. His poor clearance led to the goal, and he compounded that by conceding the penalty. So, that set the standard. And I'm going to Coventry now. I'm not going, but the team's going to Coventry. And as far as I see, we got a chance up at whatever the stadium's called these days, based on that second half performance, because that was good. That was as good as the game against Sheffield United on the opening day. And Sheffield United were poor, admittedly, but we played with passion and purpose. And I want to see more of that. And we were entertained. I don't think there was anything like 21,500 people in there last night looking at all the empty seats. Sure. That was good. That was good entertainment. And credit to Struber. But I think that's the thing about Struber ball. We're going to get highs and we're going to get some lows. And if we'd have lost last night and Saturday, then in football these days, you're never more than 3 games away, 3 games losing in a row from a crisis.
No, exactly. Now, before we get into the starting lineup, Anne, I have a question for you, because I tended to be at the lower end of feelings at halftime and how I felt. But I've also seen some comments addressing the fact that the first half wasn't that bad. Do you see any merit in that at all? What positives did you take at halftime? And then we'll get to the minutes.
we had a good first 5 minutes. There's potential we could have scored. I think Reece does as much as he can on the shot on the turn. Interestingly enough, is that we actually had more possession than Leicester first half. Now, Leicester, I think Struber had said something like pre-game, like Leicester, a team that loves having the ball. We played better without the ball, and we had, it wasn't a great amount, but we had like 60-40, and that led to the fact we had a fair bit of territory in their third. You wonder, again, this is where it comes down to tactics, whether Leicester made a concerted decision to say, right, let them have more of the ball today. Let them more of the ball today and see if they can use it, see if they can do anything with it. And in terms of positives, you could argue, yes, we did create some decent opportunities or decent half chances rather than anything else. On the balance of the first half, did I think it was a 2-0 first half? No. I thought we probably deserved to be behind. But one thing about this team is, even when we were playing at Stoke and we were 3-0 down, there was a part of you that thinks with the chaos, you get one, you can get two. You get two, you can get three. So I wasn't totally despondent because I know what's in this team's makeup and what's in this manager's makeup to go after things. But it would be hard to be completely positive at the break, shall we say.
No, the team that went from meek to sleek, but we'll start going through it now. So, David, starting lineup: Pring in, McCrory in, Borges and Knight to the bench. What were your thoughts when you saw the lineup? It's nice to see Pring back in. Is that the right position for him to start the game? Were you happy, or were there?
Was he playing left wing back, wasn't he, at the start of the game?
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, good to see him back in because arguably he is one of our better players, and Knight being rested again. He's obviously being saved for Cov. He came on and got half an hour's action last night. That's good that we can do that. I thought Randall had a good game. We did look at overrun at times, particularly in a period where Leicester seemed to be in the ascendancy, which might have been between the two goals, but it sort of picks itself, you know, and okay, strength on the bench. I didn't like seeing Mayulu Cornick, admin at Ashton Gate, spell it right on the team sheet. I think they thought it was Harry Connick playing for us, and three strikers on the bench, of which two of them are never going to get a game. What's happened to Ollie Thomas? You know, and I think I said on OTIP, you know, if we do sign a striker, then 2 out of the 3 that are on the bench have got to go out the door in January, be that on loan or hope that somebody comes in with a cheeky offer. But the team is what it is. Good to see Bobby Reid in the opposition lineup. I was chatting to some Leicester fans about him. They're quite pleased with him as a player, and he's made a decent living football at the highest level since he left us. And it was nice that he had a good round of applause when he came off as a sub. But no, the team, what you'd expect really, and doing the right thing, giving Knight minutes, managing his minutes, and he did the same with Pring. To be fair, because he did an hour just over, and before he got taken up, he didn't look rusty. Pring, he had that chance in the first half when he headed over just at the end, and as Anne said earlier, we were poor in the first half, but there was a couple of chances there. But the lineup was as I'd expect, to be honest.
Which is a nice lead on, because at the start of the game, it was relatively even. A ball gets played in from McCrory to chase down. He chases it down well, gets to Reece. And what were your feelings on that Reece chance? How did you see it?
I think he does as much as he can. McCrory obviously does well on the close down. Reece spins and hits early. He's under pressure as he does it. He's got to get the shot away. He gets the shot away quickly, and I think you'd be harsh if you thought that he could have done a huge amount more. It may be, if we're in XG territory, it goes in 20% of the time. With that, it came to him quickly. I think there were 2 to 3 Leicester men around on the line, and there was one directly behind him. So I think he does as much as he possibly can. There wasn't really anybody coming in for the tee up if he was going to do that. But plus, if I'm a striker in that position, I want my striker going for the goal. So I call that probably a half chance because of the amount of traffic he had. Good stuff from McCrory at that point, but did as much as he possibly could with a chance, I would have said.
Okay. And David, after that, Leicester hit the bar with a free header at the back post where McCory kind of lets the man sneak in from behind. Before that, there's a possible VTech miscommunication, not quite an error, but doesn't deal with it particularly well. There's a couple of other moments. It's a bit pensive. There's a Tanner giving the ball away with a very short pass. Do you feel like that we showed them too much respect in that opening period?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the names, there's very few of them that are recognisable, and it's incredible to think that this time 10 years ago they were on course to win the Premier League. But they can part. They're a good team. We've seen some good teams at Ashton Gate this season. I think overall the standard of football has been a lot better. Getting back to that early chance that they had, you used the term Vitek error. He did make one. It came out in the commentary where he was caught in decision from Mavid, and it was Mavididi, I think, Chowdhury who put the cross in, wasn't it? And Mavididi headed in the bar. That was after they'd recycled the ball from that mix-up at the back. But no, I mean, do we give them too much respect? No, I don't think so. I just think they're a good side, good inconsistent side. Going into last night's game, their last 5 was 1-3, drawn none, lost 2. But there's no side in the top 10 where we are now. There's no side that has got any level of consistency. I mean, Coventry have lost and drawn their last 2, and if we came away from a point at the Ricoh Stadium on Saturday, that would be great. But then we'd be looking at only 2 wins from 8 games. It would be then.
Yeah, sure.
Isn't already 2 from 8 now.
See, the issue for me in that opening period, that opening 15 minutes leading up to the first goal, is that too much football was being played in and around our box. And that doesn't necessarily mean that a goal is coming. But if you keep allowing football to be played in that area, something can well happen. And, you get punished for fouls, obviously. It's in the penalty box. And it was one of those things. I felt like we didn't do enough to keep them out. We were almost too passive in how we played. And we were playing the game that they wanted us to play instead of making it difficult for them, instead of really getting in amongst them. It felt to me too respectful. And then we get to the 15th minute, and we haven't got to Scott Twine yet, because kind of saving it for this moment as the first attack of the day, because he's going to be in for a little bit. And talk me through the penalty as you saw it leading up to it.
The first things first is on the corner. Now the corner is hit very, very deep, and Jordan James makes the run to the back post. The interesting thing about that is, I think that is they've watched this as preordained. If you look at when we play Watford, for example, there was something very similar where the ball to the back post from the corner, and it's officially Anis's man, comes off the back of him, and free header. Now, I'm not going to blame the Messi for the penalty. That would be ridiculous. But what I will say is there's a whole communication piece going on here. If you look at the edge of the box, Mehmeti's got 3 or 4 guys in his eye line. He's got the 3 that are coming into the zonal marking piece, and then he's got Jordan James who's coming around the back. Jordan James is the man he probably has to go with, but nobody is saying to Mehmeti, he's going, and he's going like a train. He's got a free header. That free header gets miscued. It's supposed to go across the goal. It does go across the goal, but it goes too far, and it ends up at Scott Twine's feet. Now, the other thing for me there on that basis is he's in acres of space, relatively speaking, for the penalty. He's got time to actually bring the ball down and play it out. He doesn't need to do what he does do, which is a very, very weak clearance on that. So who's talking to Twine? Who's telling him, you've got space, you've got time? It's the most basic shout in football, time. Doesn't get a shout or doesn't react to the shout. The clearance is really poor. It's massively poor. And the striker then got the option. He can either have a shot or he can run at him. And then he dangles a foot. He just dangles a foot. And it's the most obvious penalty I think you will ever see in your life.
Is it the most obvious penalty, though? Or is it a very, very... Well, Twine almost needs lessons in how to buy a penalty. Because does Twine actually initiate the contact? Or does the attacker make sure he gets the contact? Because the way I saw it, I get why the referee's given it. But Twine doesn't actually do much to initiate the contact. The leg is there, but it's like, thank you very much. And he kind of runs into him. Am I seeing too much there? Is it a harsh penalty for that reason? It has been so bought?
No, I don't think so. I just think it's a really, really poor attempt at a tackle. I think Scott Twine has a few traits. One of his traits is, I'm going to deem it as head loss. And I'm going to say head loss in a good way sometimes rather than a bad way. And what I mean by that is if he makes a mistake, quite often he is desperate to make amends for that mistake.
Sure.
And it comes out in various ways. Sometimes it comes out in his gesticulating. Sometimes it comes out in making ridiculous challenges. Sometimes it comes out in just having a go at the referee. To quote some previous this parish, he needs to be less emotional at times. And I think that what he's done is he's gone in, and it's reckless, not in a way of 2 feet off the floor reckless. It's reckless in just, I'm going to go there, win the ball. I don't really know how to tackle. He doesn't tackle. You stand the guy up there. You stand the guy up. You don't make a tackle. You stand him up, make him make a decision. We'll quite often say to forwards that make the keeper make the decision first before you do.
Yeah.
Scott Twine made the decision for the attacker there. And it therefore became an easy penalty. If you look where the referee is looking straight at it. He's 5 yards away from it. So he's never going to not have that penalty given against him. But it makes poor clearance. He's keen to make amends, rushes in and tries to make a tackle he shouldn't make.
Okay,
You just stand him up.
That makes a lot of sense what you're saying. Now, David, Darham's made a good point that you're quicker than Twine. Thanks for making us laugh. That's quite funny, to be honest.
Yeah.
Ant makes a point about communication. Where were the leaders in that moment? Where are the shouts? At that moment, it was like not that, and after the penalty, a bit rabbit in the headlights, a bit like we kind of went into our shell for all this talk about being monsters in transition. I smelled fear. I sensed fear among the side leading from the penalty and afterwards. Yeah. Do you think there's a question of leadership on the pitch?
I think when Knight's off the pitch, you haven't got those leaders that are demonstrably leaders, the men that pull everybody together. I mean, somebody was looking through, I don't know whether it was not a match day program or something, of players that have played for Leicester and Bristol City. And this is going way back for the old ones that are listening. There's a player called Bobby Kellard that played for City only for about a season. Then he went to Leicester and helped them get promoted in the early 70s. He was a leader. Jerry Gow was a leader. Rob Newman was a leader. Lewis Carey was a leader. And I don't see, even Dickie, big chap though he is, I don't see somebody that pulls the guys together. Yeah. When Knight's on there, it's a different matter. But I don't see that leader there. So Ant's right about the communication and the desire by Twine to make good, because I think he got booked after he conceded that penalty, for rushing in with a rash tackle. And the thing is, I think Ant alluded to it as well, or you might have done, Dave, that Twine, needs to learn how to stay on his feet or be better at diving, because if that had been Twine going down in that situation, I know you said the referee had half an eye on it, but Twine going down in that situation, he wouldn't have got that penalty because he goes down so easily that the referee, even though it was blatant, he may well have just sort of waved play on and booked him for diving. So, I'm not a great Twine fan. I've been proved wrong on numerous occasions with the free kicks, but take the free kicks away from the guy and, we were noticeably better without him. In the second half, somebody said on there, we'd have scored from 2 free kick situations that we had. We might have done, but we didn't, and we might not have done as well. And our dead ball kicks in general, people have commented on the text feed today. Yeah, they're not great. That's nothing to do with leadership, but we don't seem to threaten from dead ball situations like other teams do. And the business about having our tallest player taking the long throws into the box, that seems a little bit crazy as well, to be honest, but there we go.
Okay, so we get to like the half an hour stage. We've gone into our shell a little bit. The one success we are having is longer balls into McCrory. We seem to be reluctant to play them. To credit to Leicester, they're setting up pretty well in terms of not letting us play through the lines easily, and we kind of were reluctant to going long to a point. Twine for me wasn't in the game at this point at all. He's having a nightmare. And half an hour in, is there an argument that even after half an hour, Twine should have been subbed yesterday?
Yes. In short, that's the short answer to it. The broader answer to it is, again, I go back to the part of was there going to be a need a half hour to do what we ultimately did and change the shape.
Yeah.
So that becomes a broader decision. So you have two levels of bravery in this, if you like. The first level of bravery is somebody's having a mare, I'm going to hook them after half an hour. And I think Clement, the Norwich's new manager, actually did that to a player the other day. He hooked him after, I think, 15 minutes because he wasn't doing what he was told. So there is a bravery in that. But if you were hooking Twine at that moment, you probably weren't going to put Sinclair Armstrong on because we had enough of the ball in terms of possession. You had the chance from Cam Pring. You had a bit of playing around the box. We'd come back into it to a degree. So if you were going to take Twine off, you'd probably put Hirakawa on into the 10 role. Now, I can understand, therefore, why you didn't make the change till half-time. So it's going to be, right, let's see how this progresses. And do we want to change shape? Do we want to put a second centre forward on? Because it's a big leap from let's make a sub because someone's not playing well at 30 minutes to let's change the way we're going to play in terms of putting another man up front after 30 minutes. That would be a bit of an order move. So I understood him staying on, but there was a case to take him off.
Sure. I get that point. And as you addressed, 40 minutes in, there's we finally start going a bit long to McCrory. He wins a knockback. Tanner puts one of his, slightly deeper crosses into Pring, who doesn't make the best of the situation. But that, for me, is an example of how you can play football in other ways. If you're not getting success in one way, you go at them another way. And I don't think McCrory was great in that first half on the ball. He had numerous opportunities to deliver something and he didn't, but he was winning the physical battle in the air. There were 3 or 4 occasions where I think it was Chowdhury he was up against, where he won the battle. It was the left back for sure, either way. That's how you have an impact, even when you're off it slightly. And that for me was the frustration of that opening 40 minutes, is that we weren't diverse enough in how we tried to play football. Which brings us to the second goal. David, talk us through it.
Well, it was slick football from them. You see the ball break down the right and their right, our left. And before we knew where we were, Viner almost seemed to say, after you. Yeah. And I think it might have been Pring who was the other player closest to him. And it was an easy chance. We saw Bobby Reid score quite a few goals like that for us in the 2017-18 season. Low cross on the edge of the box, steered past the goalkeeper. It looked a bad goal defensively. And, if Viner was injured, that can be the only reason why he sort of let the guy go past him in the way that he did. But, at that point, based on how overall we played, it didn't look good. You're thinking we're going to be on for our 5th home defeat of the season. And I think last season in total, as somebody pointed out on Radio Bristol last night, we only lost 3 home games all season. Now, you counter that by saying we've already won more away games than we did all last season anyway. So, and I think just to be statistically correct, the 20-point game compared to last season, we're 4 points better off. Yeah, so you can't complain. But when the second goal went in, I thought that was it, curtains, and hence my acute depression at half time.
And we've seen that kind of incident before. We've seen that problem, that weakness before, where the left centre back gets drawn out and there's a severe lack of cover in behind. How was it possible yesterday that there is a sea of red around Viner and yet he's so isolated against the defender? What's the structural problem that's happening? Because Pring was there, Randall was there, Anis was covering his side of the ball, and yet there is still a gaping hole. How is this happening?
Well, the first thing to say about it is that whether Viner's injured or not, what you do is you foul the bloke rather than let him go past you. If you go back to the Millwall game, what Millwall did exceptionally well is they took yellow cards if they needed to. Quite a lot of the time I sit there in the Dolman and I say, that's a good foul. I like a good foul that you take the yellow, you take it for the team. And obviously Viner is now not on the yellow card danger zone. He could have taken the yellow at that point. And actually, there was even more reasons to do it if he was injured, because he wouldn't be on a yellow in the second half. So why is that happening on a broader basis? I'm not sure it did happen as much yesterday, because you're right in saying there are numerous people covering, you know, and there was a bit there again potentially about responsibility. Pring's at the start of the move, Mehmeti is running back with them, Randall's in close proximity, and Viner's there. If you look at it, he only really goes past Viner.
Yeah.
The rest of them are kind of running parallel, or they're not really cutting off the shape. So for me, if I've got all my team there, I'm expecting one guy to go that direction and force the guy wide, and then my winger, so in this case, let's argue it's Mehmeti, it could be Pring or whoever, go straight. Because then if I'm forcing him wide, if he beats me, running in a straight line means there's less distance to run versus running in diagonal. So actually, you've already made the second man cover. So it's an intelligent second man run to cover in the defensive shape, which doesn't actually happen. And that means that once he's done Viner, he's clear.
Sure.
The second man run is the one that could have covered that, but Viner should have made the foul. And then Dickey loses Bobby Reid. It's a really good little small movement by Bobby Reid. As the ball comes in, he just steps back.
Yeah.
He just steps back. Dickey is on his heels a little bit, and Reid did excellent there on the finish. But if you want to solve that structural problem, it's you engage towards the wide piece there, and then you cut off that bit there, because then that's two meant to be.
That was the issue for me, is I think that they fell into the trap of believing there was safety in numbers. Once he gets past across the finish, it's harder to do anything about that. But I felt like too many of them believed, oh, there's lots of us here, we're fine. But nobody did the hard yards to make sure that massive space was covered. And it was really frustrating for me. And this leads into halftime being 2-0 down. And I just have a couple of questions for you both going into this point. And I'll reference it in terms of 4 players. And did they do enough in that first half? Obviously, Twine we've spoken about, so put them to one side. Reece, Viner, and Randall. Were you seeing enough from those 3 in the first half? Who gets any positivity from those 3 at all? Because I didn't see it from Reece. I didn't see it from Twine, obviously. And Randall, I appreciate he does the quiet things well. But yesterday, I felt like as the main centre midfielder, that was a day to be like in people's faces. And I didn't see it. I didn't see guys, this isn't good enough. And, you know, he has to be the general in that respect, doesn't he? We need more from him as well. He's not free from criticism. What do you guys see in those 3? Is Reece worth his place right now as a lone striker? How do you see it before we get to the second half?
Who?
David.
Yeah, who do you want to
I'll go. We've done Viner. He's playing out of position on the left side as well. People are talking about, you know, assuming he's not injured, then you got to play him on the right side and play Pring left centre back and Borges left wing back, which is bloody harsh on Tanner, because Tanner, you know, he has his limitations, but he's good. Randall, as somebody said on here, Skull Legacy is said on the text feed. Randall never stops running, correct. The problem with Randall is who is next to him when Knight isn't there. And I thought Randall did okay, but I thought he looked lost. He was a lone person in that midfield at times. That's not to take anything away from Mark Sykes, who I thought was good. And you asked about Reece, is he worth his place? Well, based on the second half performance, yes, he is. But if he hasn't been injured, then arguably for the last half dozen games or so, or certainly home games recently, he's been playing like he's got lead weights in his boots. Yeah. And, you know, I'd love to have been in that dressing room at half time, because, you know, he changed. We want to see that Reece playing more. And Sinclair Armstrong coming down the left. Yeah. I mean, he did, you know, is there a place for him to start? Should we be changing the formation? That's a whole different argument.
This is my next question. I'll start with you, David. Was that first half the inception moment and the death of 2 10s, at least for now? Having Anis as the man, putting him in that central role, letting him go where he needs to go, and having Armstrong and Reece as the front 2. Do you think what we saw in that first half, it's goodbye to the 2 10s, and now we adapt slightly and just say, build the team around Anis, let him do his work. Armstrong makes Reece's life easier, and we push forward with that into the second half. When you saw the subs, I'll rephrase it. When you saw the subs, were you happy with that?
Yes, I was. And the demise of the 10 well, what's going to happen then when Stokes is fit, and where does you fit into all this? But Anne, go on, you have a view on that. You're technically more capable than I am of answering. I'm showing my limitations here. That's why I do the bloody hosting, because I can ask the question without coming up with a technical answer.
That worked. I mean, so is it the death of the 210s? And this is linked to his Reece worth his place and so on and so forth. If you look at, and also linked to Randall in the first half, Randall fought a lone battle in a lot of ways because Twine was awful. Mehmeti wasn't great at all first half, and I think he was okay second half. But so when we say make him the man and let him pull the strings, he was okay in open play. He got into pockets, but it's very hard to say much of our stuff went through him. I'm prepared to say probably that if he's taking other players out of the game, then that's absolutely fine. Reece has been isolated quite a lot in the last few games because I don't think the 210s have played particularly well, and I think that's made Reece, other than the first half hour against Portsmouth, be isolated. What he had when Armstrong came on is he had help. He had a second man, he had a second body up there. Now, in some cases, Armstrong is just a body. He's never going to get you lots of goals. His willingness to run depends on whether he's willing to run on that particular day. So the problem, if you like, is pegs and holes. When people say we need two new strikers, we're not going to get two new strikers of sufficient quality. We've got one striker probably of sufficient quality. I don't think any of us are saying that we're going to play Miulu, we're going to play Cornick, we're going to play Ollie Thomas. We don't know how good he's going to be ultimately. So you're left with Reece plus Armstrong. And the difficulty you've got there is where is the ability to change that? Where is the ability to go more attacking if you need to? Rolling back to the point, do I think it's the death of 210s for now? Yes, I do. Because I think those 210s between them have been not consistent enough overall. Now, we make the point, where does that leave Josh Stokes? I've loved what I've seen of Josh Stokes. But Josh Stokes has not played a game at this level. So we can't predicate a system on, actually, is Josh
Where
Stokes...
Where does Max Bird play when he's fit, though, Ant, in this?
Max, well, this is one of the problems you've got. If you look at yesterday and the first half, Randall flying a lone throw, okay? And if I go across the 90, if I said who consistently did well last night, it's probably Randall. Ticks the box. I thought he's not the best player in the second half by any stretch, but over the course of the game, he's consistent. But you've just got him, and you've got possibly Knight coming back. Is Bird necessarily a runner in the same kind of way? No, he's not.
But he is a lot more used to that position of a centre midfielder than Sykes is, though. So at least he has that muscle memory, shall we say?
Completely. And when you say leaders, I mean, I know that, whenever he is going to be fit. If you have Joe Williams in there, that's what you kind of needed.
Exactly.
Joe Williams in the first half would have been absolutely made for him. So I think we will go to the two up top because I think it worked very well. But my reservation is I don't see we have sufficient quality in the forward players to play two up top. I don't think, and we've gone for this before, that Sinclair Armstrong is consistently fit enough to play 90 minutes, because he's blowing out of his backside frequently after 30 minutes. And that may be a Jet thing.
Yeah.
If remember with Jet, he just wasn't built to play professional football on a regular basis or not get caught drug dealing. But so it may be that, and you don't have the resources to do it over a consistent basis. But I think you will give it a go.
That's the challenge. So going into the second half, and I was still moaning about the first half writing, and normally I have my City friends on mute, so I don't get notifications, but I was still in WhatsApp, and shout out to Dave Febbs for his come on. So I knew what was coming, David, talk us through the goal that came straight after half time.
Well, it was, we started with a purpose. We came out as though we met something, and it was literally inside the first minute of that first half. And I think it was Tanner, was it, that put the ball into the box that was sort of not clear properly. And the reason why Sykes scored was because he kept running, and he blasted it. Well, he placed it, I mean, you see those chances go begging sometimes, but it was just a start to get the crowd going and give City a chance, and got.
And
back
it was actually a tactical tweak. It was Anis's cross in, and he's on the right hand side.
He was on the right. It was it. Right. It was his.
If you don't make that tweak, Anis isn't over there. Well, most probably not over there anyway. Yeah. And that's the point behind it.
He did something. He did something in the interval, didn't he? Because, as you say, you brought on Borges came on as well. Yeah, so everything was moved. And say if it was Anis that put the ball in, I think the key thing was Sykes kept on running, and we wanted to see more of that. I mean, my comments on X at half time we were shot shy. We seem as though we want to construct the impeccable goal and walk it into the net, and we should be doing more long range shots. Although, in fairness, in the closing stages of the game, we put that right, as I'm sure we'll come on to. But just the start we wanted at the beginning of the second half, and as Ant said earlier, we get one, you think we can get 2 and 3, even in any game these days, and that's the difference under Struber ball. That we got. I expect we'll concede 5 again this season, but I can see us on our day. I think we could get a couple of games where we grab a 4 or 5 if it all comes off. That's the thing, if it comes off.
The roller coaster. Yeah. And the first goal, could the keeper do more, or is it a vastly underrated, technically excellent finish from Sykes?
It's a vastly underrated, technically excellent finish from Sykes.
Why?
The reason it's a vastly underrated, technically excellent finish from Sykes is as the ball comes in, he's running, as David says, at speed. And I remember the first time I was on this season, we talked about Derby, where Sykes didn't carry on his run when we ended up conceding a goal. He carried on his run, and it was an excellent bit of, because the ball I think he lets it go through his legs to Anis in the build-up, so he does a little dummy to get it in, follows it in. What he does as it comes in, he strikes the ball slightly into the turf, so it's not a straightforward hit straight at the keeper, because if he strikes it straight, the keeper saves it.
Sure.
So there's a little bit of a bounce, and that's what makes it a technically excellent finish, because you haven't got that much space to work in. If you're going straight, keeper saves. It goes like that slightly, so it's not a massive deviation, but you often say to people, head the ball into the ground, and get or Sings don't head it onto the bar. But what you don't often see is kick the ball into the ground, particularly on that kind of finish. It's a really, really good finish.
Sure.
It set the tone.
And you're right to say it did set the tone. And all of a sudden, there's a zip, there's an energy about the whole side, and it makes you think, well, where was this in the first half? What was missing? But I think also you can't underestimate those tactical tweaks, which is why I think he may be tempted to stay with it. And one of them was literally a couple of minutes later, Pring, as the left centre back, puts the ball down in the channel into Armstrong, who tests their defender. And we hadn't been doing that for the whole of the first half. Those moves seem to have gone from Reece, whether or not he's carrying an injury or whether I don't know what it is, but he's not doing that as much. Instantly from Armstrong, there's something else. There's a new challenge, making the Leicester sit a bit deeper because they know what's coming, allowing our better players to play. I thought it was very encouraging instantly. And everyone, I think, has been very critical of Armstrong in different moments of the season. Not enough passion, not enough energy. But that's not the first time in recent games that he's brought that extra running with him. And I think it's really pleasing to see. And I just feel like if he could go on a slight run of more than one goal every 4 games, just a couple of goals, just go in the net, however it takes it, is going to give him such a breath of confidence, because he is bringing something to that team at the moment that nobody else brings. And that change, a lot of it comes down to him and also Borges' attitude in the second half. They brought so much to how we played. It was very impressive to see.
There's something else as well. There's something else as well.
Hit me.
There's something else as well is you have a natural left footer playing on the left-hand side of the free at the back.
Sure.
And that, when you're talking about that ball from Pring up the line, he doesn't make...
Prine.
That doesn't get made without a natural left footer there. And Borges doesn't play as well without a natural left footer feeding the ball. And I think there's a bit here of understanding what we possibly missed with Rob Atkinson, not just in the progressive nature, but in the fact that it's natural angles of football. So the natural angle as Pring's playing the ball out. Now, the problem I think we've got is Pring, well, first off, let me say that I think Struber is doing absolutely the right thing in managing Knight's minutes, managing Pring's minutes. He's playing the long game. He's not saying, I'm going to run these guys into the ground and then we pay the price at the start of the following season.
Sure.
End the season. I would love Cam Pring to play on Saturday. I don't think he will, because I don't think that Struber will load him with that many minutes in that quick succession. But what I would say is it made such a difference having a natural left-sided player and opening your passing angles out on that left-hand side. And that, as much as anything, was the difference for Borges, Armstrong. It enables.
David, Ant makes a very good point there. Where is Pring's best position at this moment? Left centre-back or left wing-back? Bearing in mind the other players and the other pieces that will be around him, I personally would say that he's better as the left centre-back with Borges or McCrory as the left wing-back. How do you feel?
I think the key thing with Pring is, can he maintain his fitness? Yeah, and you've already said there, we've got with Borges and McCrory, we've got options there. We've got three options there at left back or left wing back. You could say we got a left centre back as well in Roberts. He's not everybody's favourite player and could well be somebody that departs in the January window. But Pring would be a first pick in most City fans' starting lineup. And when people are fit, like Atkinson, how long is Atkinson out for now?
I think they're hoping he's just the other side of Christmas.
Okay, but I think Atkinson gets that left centre back spot, and then that does push Pring out onto that side, onto that left wing back, or if they play in a 4, because people are saying, I think Tom of Robin's Nest has said about the selection problem that Struber's got, because if Viner is fit, then is he going to play Viner on his best side? Because fair play to Viner adapting to playing on the left side. I can remember Callas; he was always when Callas was here, Viner was in the early stages of his career, and Callas should have been the one that played on the left then, even though he's right-sided, as the most experienced pro. Yeah, because I can remember saying that. This is a few years ago now. But I think if Viner plays, you've got to play him in his best position to get the most out of him. So Saturday, start Pring in that left centre-back role with Borges, and you've got McCrory. I thought McCrory had a better game yesterday than he has done of late. I've been giving him pelters for not being very good. He was better.
Sure. Which in this part of the game, we're now well on top. You have a strike from Anis, it's saved by the keeper. You have a Reece Thunderbolt that was well hit. And then we have the modern day classic, the keeper going down injured when a team is under the cosh. And what can football do to stop that? Should football do anything to stop that? Because it's taken football 100 years to figure out, hey, this is a way to stop things. Is it just part of the game now that you have to accept, or is there something that football can do to not allow that to happen?
It's in a lot of ways intelligent game management. And I think if you go back to the Portsmouth game, the exact same thing happened.
Sure.
That was what allowed John Mousinho to change the game for them. So it's known. Armstrong, for a start, he misses the keeper completely.
Yeah.
He misses the ball, misses the keeper, plays true to form. And I may sound like I thought actually he did well last night, to be fair to him, and he's done well in fits and starts. The trouble is that when the keeper goes down, more often than not, as it was last night, it would deem to be head. The keeper's holding his head. You've got to stop it in terms of the protocols. Concussion, you can not stop it. What you're really asking here is you're asking VAR. You're asking effectively VAR to say, right, have a look at this. There's been no contact with the head. Right, what are we going to do? Is it a yellow card? Do you sin bin? Do you do something like that? you're talking about a very, very big sea change in the rules of the game. I think he gets the things that can be done is the referee can do two things. One, he can make sure he adds on sufficient minutes at the end. And I thought 5 was probably light last night overall. The second thing is you don't allow a full on-pitch coaching session.
This is the this is the biggest part, isn't it? That you have to be hotter on that. You don't allow players to go over unless it's a super hot day where the drinks are agreed beforehand. It's no, sorry, you don't go for the team talk right now. And anyone that does, yellow card. Is that a way to solve it, David? Do you think?
Well, it's interesting you say, because I read in the press media this week that in the World Cup in the USA next year, they are going to have drinks breaks midway through each half. Yeah. So that is de facto team talk opportunity. Yeah. So if they're going to make that a structured part, it's almost like having a mini interval. You know, how many minutes are going to be set aside for it? And then if that became part and parcel of the game, then you could say that the managers are not allowed to consult with the players when there's an injury. You know, that the teams can't go across if you're going to have these structured breaks within the game. I thought they were sort of time wasting from the first half, to be honest. And the referee, Mr. Linnington, who's not one of our favourites, I think he booked their goalkeeper for time wasting in the second half. But, you know, it's the dark arts, that reset. And I'm sure we should start doing it ourselves as well. I mean, I thought Millwall were going to get another sneaky 1-0 win last night, although I saw it ended up as a draw. But, you know, we want to be into the dark arts and more than we are, I think. Yeah,
I think there's a line, and don't ask me where it is, but there is a line between dark arts and quite obvious to everybody that you're playing people for a fool here. And it's every game now a goalkeeper's going down. As soon as one team is on top, bang, the goalkeeper goes down injured, making changes. For me, it just feels like that is too far. I accept there's always going to be, you know, players that will get injured sometimes. There's always going to be certain elements of tactics and moving things around. But for keepers to be consistently going down for no reason, for me, it's just too far. And if it was up to me, I would say in those moments when the keeper is down, no tactic talks. Can't talk to the manager directly, at least in a group. If you want to communicate to one, fill your boots, because he's got to then go to everybody else. But absolutely not in a group. For me, it's just too far in football. Now, moving on. And the Armstrong chance from the corner, the Dicky header. Talk us through as you saw it.
I think the first thing to say about it is that I think the goalkeeper saves Dicky's header without any contact on it whatsoever. I thought that in real time. I thought it on the replays as well. He gets contact, and I think Armstrong is in completely the right position and has to get something on it. But all he has to do is get something on it, and he gets too much on it. And that diverts it onto the crossbar. And I think as it comes back out, I think it's Reece it hits on the back post, and it just hits and it just goes wide, because it could have quite easily gone in then. So I know there's been some criticism, and to be fair, I've criticised Armstrong enough of he's cleared the ball off the line, or he's done this, he's done that. Actually, I see it more as he's missed a very, very good chance, because I don't think Dicky's chance is going in. And to be honest, I want my striker, with a striker's instinct there, to put the ball in the back of the net. I want my striker taking the goal off my centre half, because I want my striker to be greedy for goals. I think he's got to go for it. He's got to hit it. And I think the keeper saves it with Armstrong doesn't touch it. And then there will be people that think, actually, no, it doesn't go in. But I don't think it had enough pace on it. And I think it was close enough to the keeper that I think the keeper makes the save. Now, whether the keeper makes a save and it bats out to Armstrong and he's got a tap in, debate, discussed. But if you're a striker in that position, you head the ball in.
David, am I being generous to say that Armstrong was unlucky there?
Yeah, I mean, I disagree with that. I think it may well have gone in, and it was who is it? Somebody was on Radio Bristol, I think, last night. It might even have been Chris Honor saying Armstrong, body positioning and stuff like that. His innate knowledge of the game is not great, and he's learning. And as Chris Honor said, you know, learning at championship level is a pretty tough pace to learn. And, you know, will we progress while players are learning their trade? So I think it may well have gone in. And it was just unfortunate that it hit him on the shoulder and then went in off the bar. It would have been great for Armstrong's confidence. He didn't know much about it. He was just there. It would have been great for his confidence if it had gone in. Yeah. And, that goal, that chance came before our second goal. And I think if we'd have got that, then we may well have gone on and won the game anyway. Yeah. So we were in the ascendancy. It was thrilling, that last half hour of the game, most definitely.
Well, and this is the point. And just to address Dharm in the chat, who said he's not seeing a progression in referencing points and stuff. The reason that I see progression from last season to this season is kind of in the emotions that football is bringing out of me in every single game. Say what you like yesterday, but the first half was incredibly frustrating. But in the second half, it was passionate, emotive, and just drew you in. You're like, and it's not the first time this season I felt like, wow, what a half of football that was. And ultimately, for me, that's what football's all about. There were many, many times over the last few seasons where I can say I've watched football because that's what I'm supposed to do right now. Whereas this season, while it's true, I just don't know what Bristol City is going to turn up sometimes. Every day I'm looking forward, 2 days to the next game. Yesterday, I couldn't wait all day for the football. Yeah. And that's the progression I see. If we judge it solely on points, the answer right now is 4 points. But that's interchangeable. To me, it's the emotions that football is giving me this season. And that's the progression that I see. Where that takes us at the end of the season, time will tell. Now, back to the game. 66th minute, Knight on for Pring, which brings Borges to left centre-back, McCrory to left wing-back, and Sykes moves over to right wing-back. This was quite a natural progression, I felt. Everybody seemed to be in okay positions. Nothing wrong with that. I feel like McCrory over a season or so has earned the trust of playing at left wing back and sometimes probably plays there better. We continue to keep pushing forward. We're not letting up. We're really seeking that second goal, which 82nd minute. David, talk us through it as you saw it.
Well, it came after a sustained period of pressure and the ball comes in from the left-hand side. It's a teasing cross, not a great height, but as people around me were saying, Reece attacked the ball at the near post in a way that we don't see. It was a good header, a good finish from him, and it capped his own massive uplift in energy and play in that second half. So it was a good goal, good team goals, some decent play leading up to it, and look, at half time you'd have settled for a 2-2 draw, and it's always better getting a 2-2 draw when you've been 2-0 down than being 2-0 up. Leicester fans must have been quite disappointed come the final whistle, but no, that was a good goal and probably sealed his start in the team at Coventry on Saturday.
Well, this is the issue, isn't it, Ant? Because we can talk about what else Reece brings to the side, but with sole competition really from Sykes, he's the one player that has a finish in him. And in terms of a headed goal, he's the one player that can score that kind of goal, isn't he, at the moment?
Yes. And I think Struve has been fairly clear about that he'd like reinforcements in January that give him the competition for Reece that doesn't currently exist.
Yeah.
It's a very good header. It's very well attacked again. And I agree, it comes after a sustained period of pressure. I thought, just going back to your point now about subs absolutely fine, made sense, managing Pring's minutes. Jason Knight, as some of the comments have alluded to, comes out on and tries to start a fight immediately. So when you ask where the leadership is, I think Knight was clearly looking to lead in respect to that.
It's a good point. I overlooked that fact that he maintained that aggression when he came on. He kind of, if anything, added a fresh impetus to it that no, guys, this isn't enough. So you're right. Real credit there.
Came on, think it was Joe Nye who started having a fight with straight away, which is always a risky business with Livingston refereeing it. But Reece doesn't have any real competition. It's the point I made earlier on. He doesn't have any real competition. The question becomes, is he producing enough without that real competition? I think he's on 6 goals this season, if I'm right. So,
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. So he's going to be on course for, let's say, 15 goals in the season.
Yeah.
20 goals a season strikers.
Yeah.
People keep talking about, they don't really exist. You go back, we don't have many 20 goal a season strikers in the championships across many clubs. So 15 goals for your main man is absolutely fine for me, as long as people are chipping in from elsewhere. And I think Sykes, yes, is a goal threat. I mean, Adam Randall, I think, has got more goals in him than he's shown so far. He was unlucky with a chance last night. I thought that was looking like it was going.
He had two good shots from long range in the second period, which dispelled my shot shy criticism at the team as a whole.
Yeah,
I think, and like even after equalising, what was pleasing to see. It wasn't a case of right, we hold this. It was a team that really wanted to go for the winner, because even in injury time, we had the Randall shot, the Dickey header, and it was like we're trying to get a winner here, which is exactly what you want to see. But then 94th minute, a shout out to Vitek, because there's been a few incidents this year where I felt in the recent games, could he have done better? David, you often talk about, was it a good save or a should save? I think that save in the 94th minute was a great example of a keeper doing something incredibly well, because not only did he get down, but he pushed it so far wide that there was no chance for anybody to pick it up. And that is an example of a point being earned from something small at the end of the game that would have been very harsh to concede from.
Absolutely. I mean, if we'd have conceded then, it would have been a travesty. Everybody would have come away from Ashton Gate thinking, if you're a neutral, well, I've been entertained. But, you know, City, well, they deserve 3. And if they'd have got none, it would have been grossly unfair. But it was a good save. And he's had his critics. It's the English thing, isn't it? There's a certain number of certain people on this text feed here that seem to be saying Vitek, he needs to be rested or have his poppycock. He's won more points than he's cost us. And, I sincerely hope that we could maybe even have him for a second season on loan, which means that Max O'Leary will probably be going out through the door. Whereas, if O'Leary goes and Vitek go, we're going to be in the market for a goalkeeper. And that's not going to come cheap if we want somebody that's championship ready come the summer.
Sure. So we go 1 point, a roller coaster of a game, as we said. The spectrum of the 3-point league table is now absolutely massive. And all of a sudden, every game takes on an even more massive impetus of where you are in the league table and maintaining that progression forward. Looking ahead to the Coventry game, and you kind of touched on it previously, there's one player that I feel we need to talk about and where he is in the side going forward. George Tanner. I don't feel like he's played poorly, but I also don't feel like he's the next step up for us to progress. But are we really at a point right now that we say if Pring's fit enough to play as the left centre-back, that Viner automatically displaces Tanner? Is that where we are, Anne?
Yes. And I love these quick answers. The thing for me is that I've used the word progression quite a lot. And the irony here again, as I said, I think George Tanner as a one-on-one defender is good. I think he's a very, very good defender. We had a really good game, for example, at Pompey a few weeks ago, where he marked Murphy superbly. I think the difficulty for me is the progressive nature from the back. I want, and this is again, we said Hayden Roberts, left-sided centre-half. It's why he doesn't do a job in part, because he's not progressive. Viner is progressive. Dickey is progressive. Pring is progressive. What you've got there is you've got 3 players, 3 angles, gives you a natural shape, which means you can get the ball out from the back, and it creates so many options and so many links. Tanner is not as progressive. I know the song says that he runs down the wing. He doesn't run down the wing. He jogs backwards, and there should be truth in poetry. But Tanner has played well. But if you want round pegs, round holes, best players playing, you play Viner as right side, you play Dickey in the middle, you play Pring left side. Then when Rob Atkinson comes in, you maybe make a different decision. But if we're looking to progress outwards from the back and play the ball, which I think we almost certainly are, because we've said before that's been one of our problems when Viner was in midfield, you've got to put Viner and Pring as your options there, with the caveat, I don't think that will happen on Saturday, because I think they will manage Pring's load.
Well, they could do it on Saturday, because they could say, right, let's try our best formation of Tanner, Dickey, Pring for the first hour, harsh on Tanner, but then in the after half an hour, bring Tanner in on the right side. You don't weaken it, and then you put Viner on the left side and basically don't
You could even,
massively weaken it over there.
is it truth in poetry or is it artistic license? Because you could even bring Borges as the left centre back with Viner on that side. You could go to a back four. There are a lot of options on the table. I just feel like, would it be so over harsh to all of a sudden be dropping Tanner now when it feels like, I agree with the points made that is he the right player to be passing the ball out? But I also don't see a player that feel like this is a guy that's playing poor at the moment. It just feels like what more could he possibly do to earn his place in the side? And it's a real tough decision and a real dilemma to make. Now, the other player, David, for you, Twine, do you want to see him start? In my opinion, he should be on the bench, and it should be 3-4-1-2 with Armstrong and Rees up front, with Mehmeti being the man. Would you be happy with that?
I'd be happy with that. I think, and a few people on the text feed here, as we're recording live, have said Twine needs to have a rest. Yeah, he's not the most energetic. He is better than he was last season, of that there is no doubt. And a Twine on the bench with half an hour to go, yeah, you might get one of those free kick situations, yeah, where you can bring him on, as a specialist, the specialist free kick taker. But I wouldn't start Twine, but he's our most expensive player. In theory, he should start based on that alone, and that's why Rees, he's our most expensive forward. That's why they're there, and that's where the whole thing about bringing, when we do go into the transfer market in January, which I sincerely hope we will, yeah, players that come in have got to be better and challenging, knocking on that first team door. Now, one player that was mentioned on Radio Bristol last night, with who's not happy where he is apparently, and that is Ryan Hardy. Funnily enough, who's at Wrexham, who Viner was linked with in the summer. I mean, I don't know enough about Ryan Hardy that he's 30 years old, which is not coming up 30 next birthday. He is a championship striker. If I can throw the question back to you guys, Dave and Ant, is Ryan Hardy the sort of player that would come in and, should he displace anybody, or would he be a good addition to the squad? That one particular individual who they spent quite a bit of time talking about on Radio Bristol last night.
If you speak to some people, they think Ryan Hardy's a midfielder. That's a certain shout for OTIP there. But Ryan Hardy, I like Ryan Hardy, but I have a couple of reservations. One, Ryan Hardy is a bottom third of the table championship striker. He played for Plymouth, and he's not touching Wrexham's bench, even ahead of people like Sam Smith and so on and so forth. If you'd have said to me, give me Ryan Hardy under the Pearson years where we didn't have a pot to win, yes, perfect, absolutely needs it. I think we've moved on from the Ryan Hardy levels. I think he's going to be on a reasonable screw at Wrexham, because you have to pay people a reasonable amount to want to move to Wrexham.
Yeah.
And I don't see them loaning him and doing us any favours to another team at reasonable cost. So Ryan Hardy, I think it is a name. If you'd have said to me on a freebie or as a squad option a couple of years ago, I'd have been, yeah, I'd be all over that. But for me at this point, no, I wouldn't be looking at doing it. I think what you'd be looking at is you'd be looking at a very similar situation if you did buy Hardy to a Harry Cornick scenario in a couple of years, where he's not touching the squad and you can't move him on. You've got to look at the value over both now and the longer term. And for me, it's a no.
What I would say is that 2-1 down yesterday on Rowan's TV, the commentator basically said, and it looks like Fally's warming up and is about to come on. And my instinctive reaction is, no, not now. Please, not now. And that's the issue for me, is that Armstrong, to be fair, is being very competitive. He's earning the trust of fans game by game, but there is just that lack of another option. And it's like, I feel like Rees, we're talking about, if we had a more competitive player that could play there, maybe Rees is on the bench versus Coventry despite scoring because of the all-round play. But we're not able to have that conversation because the competition is just missing.
And the only other player that was mentioned as a forward signing last summer was Jacob Brown. So you talk about, who I don't know where he was, but he was injured.
He's Luton. He's Luton.
He failed a medical. I mean, Jesus, what are we doing We talk about somebody like Ryan Hardy. What
Yeah.
are we doing? How is somebody like Jacob Brown? But that is, I mean, a couple of people have said here, you know, if that Semenyo money does get coughed up in January, right, it is 10, 11 million coming our way.
Yeah,
But
sure.
mark my word, the club will bring out the accounts to June 25. They're overdue a little bit now anyway, I think. And they're going to say,
Yeah.
oh, well, we're losing. And they're going to be on course to lose another 20 million quid this year. So if you look at the years ending June 25 and June 26, we're probably looking at 40 million pounds worth of losses in
Sure.
those 2 years. And we're going to have PSR stuff. So in the January window, that 10 million could come in and offset that. And who's to say somebody might not come in with a cheeky bid for Jason Knight if he gets decent number of minutes over the season? And then the fans will be mightily, I'm going to say it, mightily pissed off if we do not go for it demonstrably in that January window. And for me, if they don't want to make a long-term commitment and get tied up with contracts, remember they gave Armstrong and Mayulu 4-year bloody contracts,
Yeah.
Not so bothered about that with Armstrong now. But go out and get young loan players. Go out and get a Tammy Abraham where you might be paying 30 grand a week for their wages for 4 months, right? But that is cheaper than going out and getting a bang average player on a 3-year contract at maybe 10 grand a week.
Sure. This is looking forward, isn't it? And ultimately, the true test will come over the next couple of months, and we find out where we stand, I guess. Now, before I pass it back to David to wrap up, that's the football done. But there is something I just want to address before we get into the Christmas period. For many, many people, Christmas is a magical time of year full of memories. And in my particular case, it means going home. It's one of my favorite points of the year. But it's not for everybody. There are people around us that we all know that struggle week by week. They're just making it this far as an achievement. And I just want to say to people that if you've got friends, family that have gone quiet, reach out to them. If you're one of those people that's struggling, reach out because you're not alone. And if you feel like you can't talk, my door's always open. The Bristol City family is always open, whether that's X, whether that's OTIB. Understand that it's Christmas time and you are never alone, and never think that you are. And if this helps one person, then I've done my bit. If it sounds a bit cringy, fair enough. But I just wanted to point out it's Christmas time and you're not alone. David, over to you.
Very well said. That was, Dave, exceptionally well said. I mean, we will be reviewing Coventry away at 9 o'clock on Sunday morning. Let's hope. I mean, I take a point now if offered, and then Tommy Conway and the Borough team on their way to Ashton Gate the following Saturday, and then it starts to get really intensive from the 26th of December through to the 4th of January. How many days is that? 9 days, 4 matches. Is that right? 4 matches in 9 days?
Yeah.
I think it is, isn't it?
Yes.
26th, 29th, 1st and the 4th. Goodness me, that's going to test the squad strength, isn't it? And then good old Watford in the FA Cup 3rd round, where we were listed as Bristol. I mean, there really is only one team in Bristol in the EFL, certainly looking that way come next season. There might be no teams in Bristol in the EFL next season because who knows, we may make it to the promised land in this, the 50th anniversary season. And those who probably aware of it, the Portsmouth game on the New Year's Day, that's going to be the most of the promotion team from 75, 76 are there for a FPA event. So that's good. But no, it's certainly a lighter mood after that second half yesterday. And we know what we're capable of. It's exciting times ahead. I think you've used the term, Dave, roller coaster. It certainly is that. And we're going to be covering all the games in our normal, inimitable way. But to get back to Dave's point, talk to people. Just talk to people this time of year. Every time of the year, really. All right. Anyway, all the best to everybody. Have a good rest of the week. Thanks to Anne. Thanks to Dave for hosting. And we'll